Yeah, boy, it's June 17th and it's episode 169, and this is the Fantasy Football Auctioneer Podcast. Fantasy Football Auctioneer Podcast is the official podcast of the fantasyfootballauction.com, the only website dedicated to fantasy football auctions. We've got a great show for you tonight. Tonight, we're going to break down the AFC East, and we're going to take a look at one of the 3B's of the TEs. I don't know, I just thought it kind of rhymed why I did it like that. But anyways, it's tight end breakdowns, bouncebacks, and busts. But of course, there's only one analyst here. He's feeling well rested tonight after that big trip to Toronto. Blistr, how's it going tonight?
Well, rested, not well, but rested a little bit today for sure. It was good to be home from that trip. The kids were fine, but you know, after you've done all those things once, you don't. Yeah. You know, for me, I wasn't as excited about doing them again this year. But yeah, it was a good trip. Good to be home though. Yeah,
well, I mean, we on our ride out, we hit an accident in the Trans-Canada between, ready for this, White River and the Sioux. And so we were 7 hours, the highway was blocked.
Oh, man. When did you get home?
Well, that was on the way down, so 31 hours to get to Toronto. On a bus. Oh, and it was, and with pukers, too. Pukers. Oh,
yeah. Well, we had a couple of pukers on the way home, and they stopped. We stopped 3 times, probably in the first like 8 hours or so. Like, you know, we had to stop for food, then they got snacks, and then we stopped for fuel once we got back in the States, and they got snacks, and then we stopped to change drivers, and they got snacks. Well, their snacks were candy, and pop and candy. And they just were shoveling that stuff in like they're going home. I guess there's not going to be any treats like this, and sure as shit, they were puking, and I'm like, well, what the hell did you think was going to happen? You've ate crap now for 8 hours. Like, oh, yeah. Give your head a shake. But, yeah, so that was fun to deal with. But, yeah. Other than
we got home about 3 o'clock Friday, so.
Yeah.
The way home was
note to self, if you do it again, if you ever go through the States, go Friday to Friday, because Saturday to Saturday, both times of the lineup going across or coming back was huge, right? So we walked across to get on the bus, and then I had them drop my truck off Friday night. We drove it back, but we still sat in line for, it was huge, but it only took about 45, 50 minutes. But still, that's another hour out of my life. I could have been home.
Right. And that's a lineup for those of you listening at our border crossing, because of the massive amounts of American fishermen that come up this way. So if you're interested in doing some fishing, Blistr's got a couple of holes he can set you up with there, and we've got some buddies that do some fly-in too. So don't be afraid to hit us on Twitter at Fantasy Auction if you're looking for some big Walters, some big Wallies, some big walleyes up here in Northwestern Ontario.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Bass, northern. They like northern fishing. I know. Crappie, trout, you name it. We got it all. It's nice. Maybe we should do a
Speaking of that, yeah, maybe we should. On a side note, Stewie, one of his clients invited him and a couple of the executives from his business up to northern BC to do some ocean fishing in this remote, amazing cabin. They're running twin 250 outboards on the boat, and fantastic.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Anyways, we're not here talking about fishing. But like I said, we do have a good show for you tonight. Blistr and I are going to break down AFC East. That's some stuff we've got located on the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com. And then we're also going to take a look at one of Blistr's latest articles where he breaks down the tight end position, takes a look at breakouts, bouncebacks, and busts. So, Blistr, if you're ready, then I'm ready. Let's cock the hammer. It's time for action. Well, Slim's not here tonight, Father's Day. I'm sure there was some preambles there. He's got the young family, and so he fought down last week with Eric Ludwig. Good pod, eh, Blistr?
That was a good pod, yeah. It was good listening on my bus ride, so I should do that some more.
Yeah, every time we take that trip, they should do so. Actually, I know Eric was fantastic. He's been in a few auctions already and talking about some of the things he's seeing, some of the things he learned from last year. So at FF_gouge, it was a really nice listen. It's always interesting to listen back to it when it's our podcast, but we're not on it. I find that interesting.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I did a mock there last week, and I was going to do a mock again last night, but then I got too tired and I signed up, and not enough people signed up, so I got out of it because there's no sense doing it if you don't have at least 10 real people in there.
Yeah.
It's just not realistic when the computers do all the bidding. And so the one I did, it was pretty full. I mean, people dropped out eventually, but it was pretty good. I got to do a few more to get a better feel, but I was going to tweet that out today and see who wanted to mock, but never end up, like you say, Father's Day. By the way, happy Father's Day, Uncle Buckets, and never did get around to doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. And all you other fathers out there.
Happy Father's Day.
All right, so hey, let's I don't have any soundbite or anything for this. We didn't even ask for any Twitter questions. I don't know if any came in. Some didn't send any, so we'll just screw that for tonight, and we'll just go straight to the AFC breakdown. I'm sure I can find some breakdown music for that. Maybe some old break-in music. Oh, break dancing music. I got something now. All right, it's good. Anyways, so Blistr, one of the things we always do for the membership end of the website is do a breakdown of each of the divisions. We do offer a few little freebies. I fire some of them out there, but it is something that if you're a member on the website, you can download. It's in slide format, so it's really easy to print if you want to do that too. Really easy to look at on your phone or on the computer. So anyways, we break down each of the divisions as we go through. So the East is done now. We're going to take a look at the AFC is done now. We'll take a look at the East. Just at a global presence, when you're doing this task, Blistr, of breaking down a whole division, what are some things that you want to pay attention to just as a what are you focusing on?
Well, a typical process for those who may not have been on the website before is I'll look at what the offense was ranked in the previous year and how many points per game they averaged. I'll look at their defensive rank and how many fantasy points per game they averaged and their overall record. And then I look at who they've signed as far as free agents go, who they've lost, and I'll look at the rookie offensive players that they drafted, and I'll put that all in there. And then I have a little section called Studs and Values, and then a second one called Breakout and Bust. And sometimes I change it just if I see more value or more breakout potential or more bust potential, I might list just those things. And then I usually end off with my 2 cents on how I think the team will do or fare for the year. So that's what I try to do. It's a quick breakdown. It's a quick look. And I mean, I typically try to have that written up for June 1st. And it's not something that I'll go back too often and update, because I'll update things in my rankings. So for example, if I pick Zay Jones as a breakout for the Bills, and then he breaks his leg in August, it'll probably still say Zay Jones. I might go in and switch it up, but usually what happens is I'll write a different article, or I'll just update my rankings and tiers and change it that way. But it's something that I mean, I like listening to pods or just breakdowns, because sometimes people know something about what's going to go on with an offense. And sometimes I'll even, I usually do a separate article where coaching changes. And we actually talked about that last 2 weeks ago when we were on, about how coaching changes could affect things, and how, some coaches like to run the ball more, or the play is going to be up tempo and they're going to run a lot more offensive plays and things like that, because that can also be a factor. And sometimes, I mean, I guess, when you think about it, when you're picking your studs are going to be your studs. Like your Lev Bells and Zeke Elliott's, they're going to be a stud no matter what, because they're good. They're going to get the ball. But it's sometimes when it comes down to maybe that your wide receiver 3, who are you going to pick between this guy and this guy, or something like that, or your RB2 even, or beyond. Like that's when you want to know, well, geez, this team has a better strength of schedule, or the offensive coordinator has changed and it looks like this guy's been known for running the ball, so I want to, I'm going to give this guy the edge over somebody else. So it's kind of handy when you do that when you're going into your draft.
All right, so let's you started talking a little bit about Zay Jones and the Bills. Let's start there. So I mean, this is stuff that you're going to be able to find on any website, I'm sure, or any sort of magazine, but we break this down for you but bring it auction style as we go through the studs and the breakouts and those types of things. But key signings: Blistr, AJ McCarron, Chris Ivory, Jeremy Curley. I mean, AJ McCarron might be of interest to you in huge leagues or 2 QB leagues. They did lose though Tyrod, which I think is going to take a hit there, and we can talk about that when we get into other divisions, and also Jordan Matthews, which has made the move there. Big draft is Josh Allen, a quarterback, who's going to be of interest there. Does he have the arms and the brain to carry us forward? So those are just some of the things that they've done in the offseason. But Blistr, when you're taking a look at the Bills, who stands out to you as far as auction values or big studs that you want to jump at?
Well, I mean, really the only big name left they have is LaShawn McCoy, and he finishes, I think it was
really the only name they have on offense, right?
It is. So
like literally.
There's two trains of thought, basically. One train of thought is, well, he's the only guy they got. They're going to give him the ball a ton, and he's going to be worth his weight in gold because he's going to see the rock so much. And the other train of thought is he's 29 years old. He played, all 16 games last year and had 287 carries and 59 grabs. And he's been in the league for, what's he been in there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. So on that frame of mind, 29 years old, entering his 10th season, can his body handle being the man? And I don't like anybody behind him. Chris Ivory, Traveris Cadet, like it's scary. So yeah, they might give him the ball a lot, but is he going to, carry your fantasy team? And I think in this one it's buyer beware, because LaShawn McCoy, he has been a top name for many years now, and he's been very valuable. But if he brings down $45 or $50 in your auction, which I could see that happening close to the $50 mark, there's other guys I'd rather invest $45 or $50 in, like Delvin Cook, for example, or Christian McCaffrey, or somebody younger, and maybe in a slightly better offense that they have more options and they can't just stack the box and try to stop him. So I think, like I said, when we tie things into auction value, he's probably going to go, I think it's pretty safe to say, around $50. However, I think there's just too many question marks there with that offense to think that that's a good investment, and I would let somebody else. I mean, he's a perfect candidate to nominate early when people got lots of money, and let him go. And even if he goes for $40 or $45, I still would be much happier getting somebody else that I had confidence in. So I can't recommend buying McCoy with confidence this year.
Well, I even heard somewhere that he's asking for less touches.
Oh, really?
Because he's getting beat down. So I wonder. I don't know if and that Chris Ivory can do some of those things that Shady does.
He could,
maybe not as well as Shady, but has a little bit of that in him.
Ivory will get hurt eventually, because he usually does. Ever since he was at Saint, he never could stay healthy, and I never did like him. So, and he will for a bit. But I think, if anybody else on that whole offense, another thing before we move on though, Sean McCoy, how many touchdown opportunities is he going to get? Right, we have, I think, like you mentioned in the intro, Tyrod Taylor's gone. I think he was a big part of that offense with his legs. Like he kept the chains moving at times. He could throw. He got a lot of, he got no love, but the guy was a nice fantasy quarterback for anybody that had him. But I don't know, like now, if Peterman's a quarterback, or eventually if Josh Allen's a quarterback. Even if they're good, you got to look at that depth chart and say, well, what do they got to play with? Calvin Benjamin and Zay Jones. Zay Jones got some off-field trouble. Then he had, I think, a knee issue that they were trying to get him back to camp for. Let's see, Bills head coach McDermott said that he expects he's got a knee and a shoulder problem to be ready for the start of training camp. Well, if Zay Jones is not even practicing with these quarterbacks right now, it's going to be pretty hard to have any chemistry if he's just hoping to be ready for the start of training camp. When other players and other teams, they've been trying to establish a rapport for months now, and this guy can't, because he's got knee and shoulder issues. So he's a guy that I would probably definitely avoid. Calvin Benjamin, I did mention him. Who else are they going to throw to? He's a big guy. That's it. Yeah. But what's the quality of throws coming to him? Like, is he going to get 80 targets and only 40 of them are actually catchable, and he catches 20? So it's really an offense that you should probably just avoid. Leave it to somebody else. You probably could take a stab with Benjamin, late in your draft. I can't see Benjamin costing more than $10, which is probably the cheapest he's ever been. Yeah. But you're going to get a wide receiver one for a steal. So if he's on your bench and all of a sudden things are working out well, and you got a great deal, and not, at least you're not going to waste a lot of money on him, at least. So there's my take on the Bills. Here's what I'm thinking.
Benjamin is probably that, let's say, towards the start of the second half of your auction draft, right? Guys are getting up, taking a leak. They're a few beers in. One of those guys that kind of gets lost in the shuffle, you know, during the auction, and you get him for $5 rather than $9 or $10.
Yeah.
And he does have that upside because he's the wide receiver one on that team. And
right.
He could be a real turning in your roster, right? So I think he's one of those guys you kind of stay in the weeds. Don't wait till the very end, because that's when guys maybe have a little bit of money and they'll just be, I'll pay $11 for him because they have that little bit of cash. But when there's that little lull in the draft, I'm thinking, what do you think?
Well, I think that's perfect. I think, because like you say, he is a wide receiver one, so he should get the most targets on that team. And if that means he's a wide receiver one on that team, but if he's a wide receiver 3 on your team, that's not a bad wide receiver 3, especially if he's going to still get 100 targets perhaps. Like, chances are they're going to be trailing a lot, so chances are they're going to be throwing a lot. And I think that who else can they throw it to, right? Even if it's garbage time points, it'll help the squad. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the $8 or $9 range, I'm looking on Fantasy Pros right now because they have that value over replacement stuff going on so early in the auction season. So they have them at about $8 right now. So Blistr, just a little bit of comparison here. Are you buying Sterling Shepard for $8 or Kelvin Benjamin for $8?
Oh, I'd take Sterling Shepard.
Jamison Crowder.
Crowder, yes, definitely. I think he's going to get a lot of targets. Alex Smith, he could be a borderline, like I'd say he's easily going to be a wide receiver 2.
Okay, Nelson Aguilar.
I don't like him. I'm gonna skip him, but I'll take Benjamin in that case. Yeah.
Your boy Mohamed Sanu.
I'll take Benjamin over Sanu.
Okay. So those are guys that are kind of in that ballpark right now as we're looking at things. And then I wanted to do the same thing with Shady, just because I'm curious. They've got him listed right now around $30, which from what you were thinking, I think in a real draft too, the name value of Shady McCoy gets more than 30, I think. But that's just for kicks. It's around running back 12, which I think is probably about fair.
Yeah.
So are you doing Leonard Fournette or Shady?
I would do Fournette.
Dalvin Cook?
Oh, I like Dalvin Cook. Definitely Dalvin Cook.
Freeman?
Yep. Freeman.
Jerick McKinnon?
Well, there's the thing. He's getting
now
all
we're
this
certain,
hype,
right?
Yeah, he's gonna, supposedly could catch a pile of passes, but I've never been a huge McKinnon fan. We've seen him live; he never impressed me. But if he does catch a lot of passes, great. But I'm not totally convinced that those other running backs can't eat into some of his touches yet. So he's a guy that I'm kind of nervous about so far.
You're Shady over McKinnon?
Yeah, a little Shady, a little scared.
No, but are you taking Shady? Are you taking Shady? Is what I'm saying.
Well, I'm Shady.
Not do you have to shade on McKinnon?
I'd think I'd gamble. I'd still take McKinnon.
Okay. All right.
Not feeling good.
So that's where we are. I just wanted to see kind of where you were in real life if we were on the clock here.
I did the other night. So the mock I did the other night, what are we just talking about? McCoy went for 42. Yeah. McCoy.
Right. And I think the name value gets that.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
For sure. Okay, let's move on to the Dolphins there, Blistr. Mm-hmm. So next up on this list is the Dolphins. Key signings this year, we have Frank Gore, Albert Wilson, Danny Amendola. So a lot of short yardage receiving type players there. Key loss is Jay Cutler, if you call him Key. Jarvis Landry, Julius Thomas. And then as far as rookies being drafted, Mike Gesicki is probably the biggest name there. We do see Kalen Ballage coming up in rookie drafts as far as dynasty stuff. His name does come up and might push at the running back position there a little bit. So Blistr, looking at the Dolphins, what are you focusing on here as far as studs or values, breakouts, busts, those types of things?
Well, I think the biggest key is the guy that left at Jarvis Landry, and I think he had 160 some targets last year. So where are they going to go? So I think that in that regard, you have to really look at Devontae Parker and or Kenny Stills. Tannehill will be back. He wasn't their quarterback last year. Jay Cutler was. So
don't you think Albert Wilson though can just fill in that Jarvis Landry role?
Well, that's the talk, but I have never seen Albert Wilson do anything that can get that excited about. Like Danny Amendola is also there, so if Danny Amendola is healthy, he can also play in that slot role, and so obviously is that right there, that in there, him and Albert Wilson him and Wilson are splitting the targets. So until I see Albert,
I mean, not for C-wise, but I'm just thinking about where those targets go.
Yeah, well, that's where some of them could go, but like until, I mean, the thing is, Parker's been there a long time, and he was a high draft pick, and he should be better. He's just got to stay healthy and stay on the field. And Kenny Stills did pretty good last year with them, and he's going to be there again this year. So the other guys are new to the offense and new to this quarterback and haven't had that time to build that chemistry like the other guys have. I just think that until Wilson actually goes out and has a season, where he could at least be a wide receiver 3, I just can't see him coming into a new team and doing that. I mean, I don't view him as that great of a football player. If he was, I don't think he would be there. He would probably with his team still. So I know he's getting a lot of hype. I'm not on that train yet.
Okay. All right. So, and I agree with you. I mean, Devontae Parker, if you can't do it now, for the love of God.
Yeah. When is he going to do it?
I mean, what else do they have to do for him, right? Like, I mean, he's competing against Kenny Stills now. That's for the wide receiver 1 on that team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kenny Stills, right? Yeah. I mean, and so on Kalen Ballage, for instance, as a running back there, are you thinking about him or Gore? Or do you care about that backfield at all? Is it?
Well, I'm a little worried about
just Kenyon Drake. That's the guy.
Well, that's the thing is I don't know that they even believe 100% in Kenyon Drake. They brought in Gore and they drafted Ballage, and I wouldn't be surprised at some point if Kalen Ballage is their starting running back in this year. And Gore, we've written Gore off for how many years, and he keeps producing at a pretty fine rate. I don't know, like that's got to stop at some point. And so, depending on the price that you get him for, I didn't actually write down the price, but I had Drake went for $21. Ballage would go for $1 at the end of your draft. Gore is going to be probably $7 or $8, I'm thinking only, which is if he's the starter, then that's pretty good price. And I think the offense overall should be pretty decent. So I think they're going to get their opportunities, but again, another situation that I would, with my money, I would probably avoid the running backs unless you take a stab at Ballage. If you got a deep bench and you can park him there for a while. Drake, even if he is healthy, Frank Gore is not coming there to sit on the bench either, right? Like, he's probably, if Drake starts, Gore's going to still eat into his carries. What do they got to save him for? They might as well squeeze every last bit of talent and whatever he's got out of him before he retires. And so they're going to use him, but that doesn't bode well for Drake.
Right. Well, and I just hate this part of the running back tiers as they're already coming out. This I don't know if you're looking at the late teens, early 20s, just in that kind of ballpark. Kenyon Drake, Lamar Miller, Alex Collins, Jay Ajayi, Mixon. I just don't know what to do with any of these guys. I just don't trust any of them. Like, I think, you know what I mean? I think if I'm going to get stuck with having to spend in that, $15 to $20 range or whatever it is, maybe I'm just going to not do it and pay for, the, I don't know, like, if I'm rolling down the list, like, maybe Rex Burkhead and Tariq Cohen and Duke Johnson, you buy 3 of them instead of one of those guys and hope one of those guys hit.
Yeah. You're right. Like, it's hard to trust a lot of people in that group and that tier. You just don't know what you're going to get. Like, the way I have them broken down in that tier, I have McKinnon in there as well, Joe Mixon, like you say. If anybody had a really good chance if they use Joe Mixon properly. Maybe it'd be him. I hate JJ. We mentioned that before. Mark Ingram is still he's effective, but he's still he's going to be Alvin Kamara could see more touches. He's got 4 games.
Yeah.
Sonny Michel.
Yeah.
Again, you never know what's going to happen in New England. Ronald Jones in Tampa, he could be great just because of opportunity. And Marlon Mack, I worry about Marlon Mack too. I have him in that same tier because there's another guy who they only drafted a couple of running backs in behind him, and who knows if they had a lot of confidence in him. I mean, obviously they knew Frank Gore wasn't going to stay around because of his age, but yeah, I don't know that Marlon Mack is definitely going to hold on to that number 1 job for too long. So yeah,
right. Well, and I just think, I don't know, instead of being in those murky waters, I'd rather just take long shots and maybe even just draft 3 rookies.
Yeah, you might be right.
That can hit. I think rookies are going to have just as much upside as these guys.
Yeah, for sure. You could take Balaj there, and some of the other younger guys, or you could take some of the Green Bay running backs and roll the dice and try to get the right one. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, like, take Jamal Williams, take both Green Bay running backs in 1 hits, and then see what happens there. I don't know. I just find that, like, I mean, Kenyon Drake, am I really going to spend $20 on him?
I know somebody that will. We'll have to get him out there. Did I lose you? Frozen. Mr. Buckets is frozen. I don't know if he can hear me, but I will hope that he comes back to life here. Uncle Buckets. I have to cut this part out. Uh-oh. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please do not adjust your set. Waiting for people to join this video call. Shoot. Hello.
Blistr.
Hi. How are you?
Blistr, there you are.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened. My Wi-Fi dropped, so.
Oh wow.
It still said it was broadcasting, so I'd probably just have a big gap
thing you got to cut out.
Close. Yeah. That's all right.
That's not too bad. And there's nobody listening, anyways.
Okay.
Probably.
So can you hear me?
Oh yeah, you sound good. Yep. Can't you hear me? What? No, you can't hear me? You're good. I can hear you.
Well, I can hear you. I can hear you. I'm good?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're good. I can hear you, too. Thumbs up.
Okay. It seems maybe I'm lagging.
Oh, well, it doesn't sound like it to me, but you're good. Okay. Maybe I'm lagging.
Am I lagging? Like, am I a lag right now?
Nope. Oh, you're good. You're good. No lag.
Try jumping on the other network here because I'm just going to try on not the 5G one. Am I good now?
Yeah, okay. You're good.
Now I'm good?
Yeah. Your face is frozen.
I can't see. You're not, your video's gone.
Oh, yeah? Huh. That's rude.
Yes, like.
Oh, hey, now you're moving.
Yeah,
again.
Hold on. I'm going to try the other one. Hold on.
Okay. Yep. I see you.
Okay. Okay. So I wonder if this is any better now.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Now it's better. Okay. Because
where'd you go?
Come on, little fella.
There you go.
I'm there.
There's a shocker.
I'm the shocker. I'm good now.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, good. I just changed the network. I got out of that 5G, whatever. So it's okay. I'll just get rid of all this in the pod. It's no problem.
Oh, okay.
I'll start back up with the Patriots.
Oh, Patriots. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay, that's where we were. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. So speaking of muddy backfields, Blistr, let's figure out what went on in the offseason here with the Patriots. A lot of interesting stuff in New England happened, over the last few weeks here. We've got Jeremy Hill new now. I've got Jordan Matthews, who's been a free agent signing, who I kind of am interested in seeing how Tom Brady uses him. They have lost Danny Amendola. The Brandon Cooks loss should be interesting. We'll see what happens with him and who fills the gap there. Dion Lewis is gone. I'm maybe a little bit interested in him on his new team. And I guess the strangest thing that happened in the offseason, Blistr, with your Patriots is they drafted a running back in the first round, Sony Michel. So talk to us a little bit about New England and what happened there.
Well, yeah, you know what? It's really it's a confusing offseason here in New England because they're, 1 minute they're talking about Brady wants to play, and now he says he's not, he's considering retiring at some point here. It's not going to play forever. And Rob Gronkowski, they're talking about he could have been traded, and it seems to be a lot of turmoil or a lot of crap going on there. And I don't know exactly what the root of it is or whatever, but if you weren't worried before about some of the positions on the Patriots and how you can play them in fantasy, then I think you have more reason to be even more so worried this year. And like you said, Jordan Matthews is interesting. I wonder, in my mind, they always talk about how complicated and how complex it is to learn this offense. So, I think Chris Hogan, he's the one that everyone's looking for to do to get the biggest bump, and now Edelman's suspended, right? So Edelman would have been his go-to guy. He sees a lot of targets, but now Edelman's suspended. That leaves Chris Hogan as the only real returning veteran, and he's got, he hasn't had a ton of time with the Patriots, but Malcolm Mitchell is back there, Philip Dorsett, Cordell Patterson, Kenny Britt. They got a lot of names. They drafted Braxton Berrios. I just worry any new receiver, rookie or new to the team, I would just worry about how much they can do in with the typically complicated playbook. So I'm not even sure where to go. Like, I think right now, if I was spending any money, it'd probably be on Chris Hogan. I don't think you'd have to spend a pile on him. I'm just trying to see if I wrote down what he went for. No, I didn't write it down. But I think he's probably going to get the most hype. He might run you close to $20. I'm guesstimating right now. But again, like in New England, the scary thing is it could be all Rob Gronkowski one game. It could be all Hogan a game. It could be all Edelman when he gets back. And then out of nowhere, it could be Malcolm Mitchell. They just move the ball around so much that how do you have a lot of confidence? The only I guess constant in that whole equation is if it's being passed, it's by Brady. So if you have Brady, you should be pretty solid at quarterback again for another year. But it's really hard to spend a lot of money confidently on any other position player after Brady and Gronk, in my opinion.
Yeah. And now what about Sony Michel? Like, do you spend money on him, or is he just a flyer where you're only going to spend a couple bucks? Or
well, I think, depending on when you draft, I think as the season approaches, he could go for, $20 in that ballpark. I mean, he's drafted highly in some places, and he's spoke, and people think because they drafted him in the first round that he's going to be, they're going to use a ton of them, but it's the Patriots. Who knows what they're going to do? They'll have a different game plan for every team they played. I actually did draft him in the mock there last time. I got him for $5. So if I get him for $5, then I'm pretty happy with that. But, you look at that backfield, like you said, just as complicated as the offense. Burkhead's back, and I think he'll still get some touches, especially around the goal line. James White is going to still be involved. They got Jeremy Hill, Mike Gillislee, Brandon Bolden, Sony Michel. Not all those guys. I can't see them keeping them all. And some people think Mike Gillislee will be the odd man out. Bolden they like for special teams. Jeremy Hill, it'll be interesting to see if he can, carve out some type of a role. But it's going to be tough when you draft a first-round running back, and Burkhead and White should get their touches still. Yeah, it's a mess in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and I mean, the backfield's always something to stay away from, and really, we know that the whole team for fantasy purposes is kind of a void, right?
Yeah.
Because of the consistency factor. So, speaking of a void, the New York Jets is the last one in the division here, Blistr. Yeah. So key offensive signings, you got Teddy Bridgewater, Isaiah Crowell, Thomas Rawls, Terrell Pryor. What a bust last year. Anyways, they did lose Matt Forte. ASJ is also out of there. Drafting Sam Darnold at the 103 was probably the move for the future. We'll see what happens as far as the present or the near future. What do you think about the Jets? They've got to have somebody to run the football and someone to catch the football, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that no matter what, I think, I have a little more confidence in some of these receivers actually, because I think they're going to have a competent quarterback. Bridgewater's looking good. I think Darnold's going to end up being really good for them too. But Josh McCown proved that he was he could move that offense last year. So I think he's going to be that doesn't make you scared to own a receiver from the Jets, because if they're not great, that might mean they might have to throw the ball a lot anyways. And that's a good thing for us. They really don't have a tight end that jumps out at you. So I think that's another thing that, the receivers should get a lot of love. And I think one name that I don't even know if I talked about him, but last year he was picked to be a sleeper and have a bit of a breakout, and then he broke himself, and that's Quincy Enunwa. And I think Quincy Enunwa,
that's a value on here.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, he's expected to have a good year. Missed the whole season. Anyways, he could be an excellent PPR receiver. That his name pops up once in a while, but he's definitely not going to go for. If you pay more than $4 for him, I'd be shocked. I think he's one of those guys you're going to be able to draft at the end of your auction for $2 or $3, and maybe even get him for $1 in many cases. Right. And I think he could be a guy that you could probably be playing if things continue to work well. If you look at that depth chart, Robbie Anderson, who knows if he'll see any suspension. I mean, he's had a bit of off-field issues. In 1 minute, it looks like he's toast, and then the next minute, it looks like maybe he'll not be as guilty as the first assumed. Yeah. But Drake, when he came over from Seattle, actually did quite well for them too last year. And Pryor, I don't know if he's going to develop much more, but behind him, Ardarius Stewart's another young guy, Chad Hansen, another guy that those guys are capable, I think, as well. So I think Robbie Anderson, I mean, if say they all play 16, he should be their wide receiver 1 and get the most targets. And Enunwa could be a great PPR receiver. And, I'm sure Robbie could cost you $7 to $10. I'm thinking right now, Curse $1 and Enunwa maybe a couple, but that's not bad. Again, if you're paying only that much money for them, then they could be your wide receiver 3. And if Robbie Anderson's your wide receiver 3, I think in our league last year, he ended up as a running back, or sorry, not a running back, a wide receiver 2. I think he was one of the top 15.
I think finished as 16, wide receiver 16, according to your list here.
Yeah, so that's pretty darn good. And so if you can get that production.
So hey, you spend a couple bucks on Robbie Anderson, you spend $5 on Calvin Benjamin, and then you go after Antonio Brown, and maybe you play Robbie Anderson in a flex in a couple of weeks, and you play Calvin Benjamin as your 3, but you've saved a bunch of cash so that you can go attack a real wide receiver 1 for your roster.
Exactly, I think and FF today they had him as 18. So I mean, even then, 18th ranked wide receiver. I mean, that's pretty solid. I mean, it means there's only 17 better, and probably 10 of them cost you $55 or $60. So not too many people are going to have one or two of them. Maybe one team's going to have 2, a few teams are going to have 1, and then after that you got a strong wide receiver 2 on your team for very little money. Yeah.
So, Blistr, that's the AFC East breakdown. That's going to be available on the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com. And we do that for all of the divisions for the membership area. So I don't have that up and running just yet. But once school ends here right quick, I'll have some time to make sure I've got the membership area all dialed in and ready to rock and roll.
Sure.
Hey, Blistr, do you want to quickly go through the tight ends here?
Yeah, I didn't write a whole lot on the article on tight end, so I'll quickly.
So this is the TEBBB candidates, the tight ends, bouncebacks, breakouts, and busts.
That's right. And I said, and then my first, disclaimer was I will avoid talking about tight end bust candidates because in all reality, you're going to pay bigger bucks for Gronk, Travis Kelce, and Zach Ertz. And I don't see any of them busting. They could due to injury, but you can't predict that. So other than that, you're not going to have to pay a lot of money for anybody at the tight end positions. So if they bust, they bust. Who cares? I mean,
so I guess
I always go back
that it's this is a series for each position, the BBB for each position. And so in this particular position, no bust candidates in the article because of the nature of the tight end position. I get it. I got you.
Yeah, that's right. And when I look back to tight end's one of those positions that I'll most often, not spend too much money on or not draft too highly because I just find like you won the league a few years back and you never had a tight end all year long. Yeah. Hardly. You picked up a waiver wire, like you barely got anything out of your tight end even, and you won our league. And
I bet you I finished with like a total of tight end 30. And that's streaming, and it was terrible. Yeah.
And so since that point, I've myself have never really worried about a tight end too much. And I've been quite successful. Like in our auction, I won like 3 of the last 4 years. And in our dynasty, I won 2 of the first 3 years, come in second and then come in third. So, and that's with not like right now in dynasty too. I thought finally this year I'm going to have a tight end. I got Hunter Henry and everyone's talking him up, and then ready. So very sad day for me. But so anyways, avoiding the bust candidates, I got a few names I'll just throw at you. And I've got Tyler Eifert down here as a bounce back, but if I right now he's still not really doing a lot, and I looked him up, and they're just going to bring him back when they think that they should and when it's safe to do so. So they know that he's fragile and he's a band-aid, but that also that if he plays, he's a good player. And there was a time when you didn't want to draft Tyler Eifert because he's always been injury prone, but you didn't want to draft him because he had a lot of hype. He was going to cost you $15-20 perhaps. And that's a lot to pay at a tight end position if you only get 2 games out of a guy because he's hurt. But nobody's going to pay that now. And he could be $1. And so if you get him for $1, why not? Tyler Eifert, he often is looked to in the red zone. And I really think that, at that Cincinnati team, like they could be good, but there's still some question marks there. Like we talked about Joe Mixon, we're not sure how he's going to be used and how high a ceiling he has. John Ross, they drafted last year, he had negative points in fantasy last year. So after that, like the only guy they got is AJ Green, and to me, I wasn't even impressed with him.
Gio still is going to catch some balls, I think, because there's nobody there.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, he has to be on the field for a certain amount of plays because there's really very little. So if Eifert comes back, he's going to get plenty of looks and he's going to get plenty of targets. And as long as he can stay healthy, he's a guy that I have as a bounce back candidate, especially knowing that he's not going to cost you much money. So if you could throw him up for $1 and it's probably going to be crickets in your draft. And if it's too late in the draft, someone's going to say, oh, who cares? I'll throw $2 on the bum, and nobody's going to probably go 3. So you got to throw him in at a time when you think you can get him, or people are done with tight end or something like that. But I mean, if you got him for $1 and he played 6 to 8 games for you and was a tight end 1, or even a top 8, 6, top 6, top 8 tight end in those games, it's going to be huge. And then if once he gets hurt, you drop him. It's not a big deal for $1. So
that's right.
He's the guy I guess that was my only bounce back candidate.
Right, and you had 3 breakouts there, Blistr.
Yeah, I'll go through them fairly quick. George Kittle at San Francisco, last year 43 catches on 63 targets, and that's pretty normal for a rookie tight end, but maybe even a little better. But I think now he's had a whole season to work with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo likes to throw the ball, in San Francisco as well. I don't think there's a lot of guys that are proven receivers. I really like Pierre Garçon this year. I really don't know why people aren't talking about him on Twitter or on all these expert shows. I really think, Jimmy G threw the ball a ton, and I really think that Kittle has an opportunity to be the number 2 option behind Garçon this year. So he's another $1 tight end that could, put up tight end 1 numbers at the end of the year. Ricky Seals-Jones is another one. They got a new offensive coordinator in Arizona. And prior to that, you didn't really ever need to own a tight end in Arizona because he never got the ball. But I think that's going to change this year. And if he's got Sam Bradford is good to find a tight end. And if he's got Josh Rosen, well, a rookie quarterback often will lean on their tight end too. So both options are good. New head coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. So I think he could get a lot of looks. And I also have David Njoku down as a breakout. Again, there's a lot of what worries me in Cleveland is there's a lot of receivers there. A lot of mouths to feed.
All of a sudden, that offense is pretty scary.
Yeah, it could be. And Tyrod, if he starts at quarterback, he found Clay quite a bit in Buffalo, and I think that Njoku is obviously a way better talent than Charles Clay was. And if Baker Mayfield starts again, you got the rookie quarterback. And you know what? Last year he played all 16 games. He finished as tight end 24, which is not bad. We know that no matter what, rookie tight ends don't, more often than not, almost I'd say 90-95% of the time, don't really produce to the extent that they can help your fantasy team. But he's got a year under his belt now. They got a lot of offensive weapons, and he's a lot of talent. So I think he's got a chance to really jump into the tight end 1 status again, because there's so many mouths to feed. I would hesitate to say that he's going to be a top 6 or top 8, but he could definitely get into that 10 to 12 range. And again, that's pretty good in your 12-team league if you get a tight end 1 out of that. For maybe, I think because he's a kind of a bigger name, I think he could cost you $3 or $4 on draft day, but that's still not too bad.
No, not too bad. And incredible talent, right? So if they use them, and then what happens to Duke Johnson and all of that? That's
a whole nother ballgame.
That's a whole nother.
What is going to happen? Well,
I don't know.
They just signed Duke Johnson to a bigger contract extension, right? And then they have they brought in Carlos Hyde, right?
Yeah. And then Chubb's a stud.
And they drafted Nick Chubb, right? So holy man, I guess out of all the rookie running backs, there's some really talented rookie running backs that got drafted. You got to really be worried about. I would say Nick Chubb, out of most of them at this point, he doesn't have a clear path to the starting role. Yeah. Carlos Hyde. People are throwing him to the curb already, but geez, he was. When he was drafted at San Francisco, he was a high name in the draft. When people were drafting him and talking about him in rookie drafts and how talented he was and how this and that. And that's what just kills me every year. You go in these dynasty rookie drafts and every year this guy, oh that. And then a year later, you know, oh, they get a brand new kid drafted, and he's all that, and it's just like everyone talks, the experts, the analysts, the NFL, whatever, they all talk like these rookies are the best things since sliced bread. They're going to just do this, do that, and then like most of them don't even work out.
Don't do anything. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it just seems so hypocritical. Like just get out.
Well, I guess you got to talk about something, right? You got to be excited about something.
Yeah, I guess so.
Which reminds me, Blistr, I got a new truck that we're going to be driving next week, and it's got the Fantasy Channel in it.
Oh, sweet. Well, Shar said she talked to KL somewhere and said, hey, we'll take the new truck. And I said, new truck? Becca never told me you got a new truck. What color is it?
Wow. It just came in this week. So, well, it didn't just come in, but she just did the paperwork while we were in Toronto. So a 2018 Ram 1500 Night Edition.
Well, you know that old rust bucket I've got? I'll be driving that for about 40 more years.
Yeah, that's this one too. I said to Carrie, well, I'll be well into my 50s, so that'll be okay.
Char's dad was here for a few days, and you know how my riverbank kind of dropped off on the one side, that fill?
Yeah.
So he was all nervous and panicky, and well, I do need this. I got to get something done with it. I got to fill it back in because it's the last little bit. It pulled my deck a bit away from the house, but it really dropped in the neighbor's yard, and it did a lot of damage. Like the deck is torn off, and the shed is fallen over now. And, and I don't know why, because it's been perfect there for a long time. Anyway, so Terry phoned up a gentleman, and a gentleman had brought some fill here when we built the house, and I kept telling him I never got a bill, and that was 9 years ago. So he comes over today and he says, yeah, I still got that, that bill. I did look it up, and so now before I even get a bucket of sand or anything, I'll be paying like $3,000. Oh yeah, and then so I'll probably be dropping a lot of money on just dumping it over my riverbank, literally. So that'll be a lot. That's really fun. But I think I'd breathe a lot easier if it was fixed. But yeah, no new truck here for a while. It'll be sad.
Yours is fairly new.
It's 7 years old already.
Is it really? That's what mine was.
Yeah. Mine will be 14 the next time we talk about the truck.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So, Blistr, that breaks down the AFC East. We talked a little bit about tight ends. We'll get both of those two talking points up on the website hopefully tonight while I get the pod rolling too. I got a busy night in front of me before I hit the sheets, but that's all right. Sir. I'll open another beer and away we go.
There you go.
Hopefully next week we've got Slim on, and all three of us will be back at her as per usual. I'm actually in Dryden for soccer Sunday, but I'll be home. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. U12s, baby.
Good. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Real deal. Anyways, so that's what we got going on. So Blistr, well, hopefully we'll see Slim next week. Blistr, I will see you in the new truck next week for sure.
Ooh.
Woo! Yeah, happy last week of well, I guess we'll talk on the weekend before next week, but happy last week of school, Blistr.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's going to be a lot of work, like you said. And if anybody wants more information on any of the AFC East or the tight end article, there's a lot more details that we just brushed over the surface. They can go to the website and dial it in.
Absolutely. thefantasyfootballauction.com. And if you want to hit us up on Twitter, we are at Fantasy Auction. So Blistr, I don't know. I guess I'm sure I'll be getting emails and texts from you during the week, and hopefully we'll see each other on Sunday. And for the rest of you, I'll see you when it's springtime in the Rockies.